Nikki, welcome to the Big Lab podcast. How are we?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me here as well. This is fun and exciting.
Thank you very much for coming on. I think I've been trying to get you on since we met up at the Tribe opening in Manchester in 2021.
Yeah, that feels like so long ago now because it would have been like November in that year, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was something like October, November. It's so long ago,
So
but
long ago, but finally we're here.
yes, we are. We've managed to get it done. And to be fair, I imagine a lot has happened since that time as well.
Yeah, there's definitely like more to speak about now than there would have been then. So good timing, really.
Yeah, I think we've done not too bad, to be fair, delaying it. So firstly, do you want to give yourself like a little bit of an introduction of who you are?
So I'm Nikki. I'm 25, and I have kind of a weird like backstory. So I've been training basically like my whole life, doing different sports, mainly like hockey and cheerleading were my main ones. But then I got into the gym probably when I was like 15, 16 because I started doing strength and conditioning work for hockey. And then that kind of just made me fall in love with the gym and doing more exercise myself. So I've basically been training ever since then. So that's like, oh gosh, that's nearly 10 years now. That's making me
Getting
feel
old,
old.
aren't we?
But I spent a bit of time working as a personal trainer. It was around 3 years, but I've recently moved out of that and transitioned into the corporate world working as an investment consultant. So that's been quite a big change. And we're around 7, 8 months into that now.
That
Yeah.
is a huge change.
Yeah.
When I was looking back at some messages that we'd sent over the time whilst I was getting some notes for this podcast, I remember that you were saying that you actually did politics and philosophy at uni and then went into PT as like a break from like corporate jobs and things like that. How
Yeah.
did that all sort of happen going into PT?
Yeah. So it all kind of happened as a bit of a blur. It was politics and philosophy mainly that I did, but the degree was actually called liberal arts. So I did a few other subjects with that as well. And it got to like my final year, and I had no clue what I wanted to do, what I wanted to go into. So I thought, okay, I'll take a bit of a break. I'll like maybe work a little bit, and then I will go traveling or something like that. So I then was speaking to other people because I was working a job at uni where I was like front desk for a bar fitness company. And so I was
Right.
speaking to some of the personal trainers there, and they were like, "Oh, you should do your qualifications. You'd be really good at it." So I kind of took a bit of time to think it over, and then managed to find a good course to do the qualifications. Did them, and then got a job at David Lloyd, which used to be the gym that I also like went to when I was growing up as a child, from like 4 years old until 18 or something. So it was a bit
Wow.
weird kind of going back to there as a worker, but it was really fun. So I was planning to do that for around 6 months and then go traveling, but then COVID hit. So then that kind of like threw everything out the window. So carried on working as a personal trainer, and then I kind of got comfortable in that position. I was like, oh, I like doing this. Like, I don't need to go find a different job either. But then it reached a point where I wasn't really progressing in anything. So I thought, this is the time I need to actually go into my corporate career and settle down with it.
So
Yeah.
did you always plan to end up in the corporate world, or was that sort of still open ended when you started the PT and then wanted to go travelling?
Yeah, it was still kind of open ended. I didn't really know what I wanted to go into, which is also why I kind of studied liberal arts instead of just doing straight politics or anything like that, because I just
Right.
didn't really have a clue of what I wanted to do. But it was around January last year, I think, where I started doing more research into like what careers were out there, because I was thinking of marketing at one point as well, but I realized I wasn't really creative enough for that. So then I kind of looked a bit more into finance, and my parents are both accountants, so I kind of know a little bit about the financial world from them.
Yeah.
But I didn't really want to go into the accounting side. I wanted to go more into like the investment side of things. So I just had to search on that, and that's got me where I am now.
So what was it that drew you to the investment side of things and not the financial side?
I think it was more. I just found it more interesting. Like it was a bit different, and you ask me this now, and I'm like, what was it that drew me to it? But yeah, I think I just liked the idea of just how it works, really.
Okay. So going back to the PT then, so you were planning on doing that for 6 months. COVID hit, it ended up being 3 years.
Yeah.
How did you sort of cope through lockdown being a PT? Because obviously that's very personal and in person. Did you move completely online, or like how did you work around it?
So I was really lucky when, because I was employed by David Lloyd, so I managed to get furlough, which was really helpful. But then it kind of got to a point where I think it was the rule of six. I think that's what was that.
Yeah.
That? Yeah. So when that rule came out, David Lloyd then opened up for classes, but like for small group classes, so like for to 5 other people. So I remember teaching
Right.
some classes outside in the rain to just
Oh
5 other
no.
people, and it was a bit of a crazy time looking back at it. So I had a bit of time where I
Yeah.
didn't work, but then I started doing those group classes, and around that time as well, I'd started seeing a couple of clients like outside, like in fields, which was quite nice. Did a little bit on Zoom as well with people. I even like did a few classes for like my friends on Zoom as well, which I loved.
Everyone was smashing out the Zooms and the Instagram lives, weren't they, at one point? I think I only managed to do one live workout, and that was with someone else. I
Yeah,
don't think I ever did one
they're actually
after
so
that.
much harder to plan than you expect as well.
It's just awkward, I found it, more than anything, because you can't really see everyone else's reaction. For all you know, there's people just sat at home just having a laugh at you in your front room
Yeah,
or your garden.
exactly. All you see is like yourself on the camera screen, and
Yeah, and
it's
then a
a bit
few
awkward.
odd comments and things like that.
Yeah,
Really
it's a bit
strange.
weird. Yeah, I'm quite
So,
glad we moved on from those times.
oh, definitely. Looking back, it's not a great moment. So you mainly kept it still sort of in person in a way, didn't you? So you didn't actually move any clients online coaching like quite a lot of people tended to do.
Yeah, no, I didn't really do that, which I think was always such a great opportunity, but it never really aligned with my plans for what I was doing,
Yeah,
because I'd still kind of sort of got it in the back of my mind that this wasn't going to be a full time kind of job for me.
yeah,
So I think I didn't really plan for that, which I look back and I think it would have been really beneficial to do, because it's such a good like way of coaching people. Like I had an online coach for a while, and it was great. Like he was incredible with everything, and the videos that you sent to them. So you still get feedback on form and everything. And so I think people are doing really well with online coaching, and it's really nice to see that it kind of opens up more opportunities for people to have coaches that wouldn't be able to
yeah,
do it otherwise.
yeah, definitely. Because I imagine it all depends on how many sessions that you want with an in-person PT, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You could probably do it on the cheap in a way, but if you were really wanting that support that maybe an online coach could give you like 100% of the time, it's going to cost you an absolute fortune.
yeah, exactly.
And it also works on the other side that an online coach kind of puts in less effort than an in-person PT would. So say if you were seeing someone 3, 4, 5 times a week, that's 5 hours a week of PT, whereas you could get all that done in maybe an hour for
Yeah,
one person.
and time is such a valuable thing, especially when you're a PT. Um,
Yeah,
I always found like my days were so long because you'd work early morning because that's when you get the pre-work rush, but then I'd sometimes go home and then come back to work in the evening because that was when people were wanting sessions after work, and you kind of like you realize that you need to value your time more than you actually
yeah.
do. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a girl that I know that works in the gym I go now,
Yeah.
and she's still working a 9 to 5 job. She on reduced hours at the moment. I was speaking to her the other day. She comes in like first thing in the morning, like 5 a.m., teaches a few people, goes to work, and then comes back in the evening. She's there like all night. And I was like, you're not just going to go full time with it because like surely you're killing yourself at the moment. And she was like, yeah, I need to sort something or just have the balls to sort of go for it.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, that must be crazy for her. She must be
Yeah.
shattered. But yeah, it's really hard to kind of like almost set boundaries for yourself with it as well.
Yeah.
Um, and when you're first starting out, you're like, I've got to do as much as I can, get as many clients as I can, take on as many classes as possible. And so that's great for like a few months, but then you just burn out, or at least I found like I was burning out so much because I was teaching like 25 classes a week or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of spin classes, a lot of
Oh,
ones that I had
jeez.
to do it with as well, but I kind of like ended up sorting it out a bit more as I went on because I was just burning myself out completely with it.
Yeah, I can imagine 25. That must be like 25 hours of classes as well a
Yeah,
week, I
well, they're like
imagine.
usually like 45 minutes, but then there's
Wow.
like getting there early, kind of speaking to people afterwards and stuff like
But
that.
then obviously you've got your own PT clients on top of that as well.
Yeah,
So you must be doing easily upwards of 40 hours a week, easily.
yeah. And then there's also, it's hard to like manage your timetable so that you don't have gaps in it. So you'd always have kind of like a weird like 30, 45 minutes gap in between things where you don't really have time to do anything like train yourself, or
Yeah,
you can get a small workout in. But I was usually having to like chop my workouts up, so I do like 30 minutes then and then 30 minutes later in the day. And
getting really creative with it.
yeah, exactly. I didn't really manage my time very well. That's what I've realised in hindsight.
Time management is massive.
Yes, definitely.
And I'm sure you've realised that as well going into the corporate world now.
Yeah, definitely, but in a completely different way as well. And
Yeah.
I don't know about if you find this as well, but with my job, like it's kind of ebbs and flows with times where you'll be really busy and then times where you're kind of quieter, and it's like using those quiet times to sort everything else out and like get things in order so
Yeah.
that when it's the busy time, because we have it kind of like every like 3 months there's going to be a busy period, and so it's
Quarter end by any chance?
yeah, of course, red.
Yeah. Yeah. Thought so.
It's just kind of like getting yourself ready for those periods and like mentally preparing for it.
Yeah, so I'm a project accountant, so project work is very similar. There are times where you're going to be a lot busier than other times, and even I've found just organizing my inbox when there's like when I have a bit of downtime, organizing my inbox, putting everything in folders and getting through everything and just getting rid of stuff I don't really need there
Yeah,
makes a massive difference.
it really does, because my inbox sometimes just kind of like gets really like crammed with, you know, when Outlook does the thing where it keeps invites in there and then deletes invites, and I feel like
Yeah.
mine's just crammed with so many meeting invites that I just need to go through and just delete them.
Yeah, we have like an internal social media as well. So every now and again, I don't know why I keep getting added to groups and things like that. So every now and again, I just get a flood of these emails that are like, so and so is written in this group, and I'm like, I don't care. So like sometimes I'll look at my inbox and there'll be like 100 emails, but once I've gone through everything, there might be 30 that I actually need to action.
Yeah, it can be a bit hectic sometimes.
So we got to the end of COVID.
Yeah.
You end up going traveling?
No, I haven't. So it's still kind of in the back of my mind, but I'm thinking, because I'm doing like the chartered financial analyst exams at the moment. So I'm
Okay.
thinking maybe when I become like qualified and chartered, then I can take like a bit of time, go traveling for a bit, and then come back.
Fair enough. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Life just never works out to plan, really.
No, and I guess if you keep it open, then who knows what could happen.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So what was the sort of prompt to move into the corporate world then? So what was the point where you were coming to the end of your PT and thought, right, I need to look for something different now? Like, was there any sort of thing that triggered it?
I'm not too sure because I've been thinking about it for a long time. I think because, like I was saying, I was getting a bit burnt out with it, and I think it got to a point where I realised I needed to make the change. But I also, so I'm in London now, and I went to uni in London, and then moved back home to like Manchester kind of area, and it got to a point where I was like, I want to be back in London. Loads of my friends are down there. I feel like I can have so much more fun and stuff like that. So it kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, right, how can I move to London? And I was like, oh, this is a good time when I could like change my job as well. Actually, it also did come at a time where I'd like went through a breakup, so that kind of like
prompted it a little bit.
Now I can make a change and stuff.
Yeah.
But So I made loads of life changes in that year.
Sounds like there's a fair few going from Manchester to London, break up, completely different job.
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
Yeah, 2022.
How have you found it?
Like the job or London?
All of it, just moving the whole, yeah.
It was quite like full on at first. Like I'm lucky that I've got quite a few like friends down here already, and my brother's actually down here as well in London with his girlfriend. So I was lucky that they have a spare room, so I was able to stay with them in like my first few weeks of moving down, because
Yep.
finding a flat was so hard.
I can imagine.
It was,
And
like,
expensive, I imagine, too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's just not talk about that.
I've got a mate who lives down there, and he's told me some of the prices he's paid for just like a sharing apartment, like a
Yeah,
room.
it's quite
And
crazy. And then you look what you could get elsewhere, and you're like, oh wow, this
yeah,
is different. Yeah, but apart from like the price of things like in London, which is just crazy for anything, just in general, but you kind of get used to it in a way. But apart from that, like I'm just absolutely loving it. Like it's been a bit of a change. Like it took me a few months to kind of like get adjusted, and I still probably am adjusting to certain things now, but like I feel so much more happier in myself being here and just working this job, having more of a routine in my life, I think.
that's ideal. That's what I think a lot of people probably look for,
Yeah.
enjoying the job and the environment that they're in. So, what differences have you had to adjust to from being in Manchester to being in London? What would you say the main differences are?
I think a big difference for me is being like far away from my family, because I get on with like my parents really well, and I was living with them for a while, so it was a bit weird moving away from them and just not having that like chat with my mum like when I got back from work or something like that. And so it's kind of been a bit weird getting used to just like calling them up sometimes and just having FaceTime conversations. But
Yeah,
it still is like it's a 2 hour train, so it's not that bad when the
yeah, it's
trains are
not too
running at
far.
least. But
Yeah, yeah. Don't try this weekend.
no, oh
Yeah, with the
gosh,
coronation and bank holiday weekend.
yeah, gosh, it would be a nightmare. I've actually started driving down and up a little bit because I
Right.
had a few. Like, I think I had one too many train that was just really delayed, and I was like, I'm going to drive this time.
So you've actually took your car down to London as well.
Yes, well, for a few months at least. I'll probably like take it back
I
home.
was going to say the congestion charges and everything are just baffle me down there.
Yeah, luckily I live like southwest, and I'm kind of like
Right.
I wouldn't really drive into central where the like congestion zones are, but I probably would end up just driving through accidentally and then realizing.
That's what I always stress about when I drive down, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I've definitely been charged. I've gone in the wrong lane. I've done something wrong.
I always have it where I get like this fear that I've been caught by a speeding camera, even if I'm like going 5 miles below the speeding limit. I'm like, is it? That's it.
And you just wait for that 2 week period, don't you, for that letter
Yeah,
to come through?
just like fingers crossed.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I went down to London. I think it was about 3 or 4 times within a couple of months last year. I think I went down twice for the football and once for a gig, and I can't remember if I went another time. And every single time I was stressing like where I was driving. I was looking at the map where the congestion charges are and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And even though I knew I was driving outside of them with my sat nav and everything, still
You still
stressed that I'd
had
gone
it.
through them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, was it? Are you a Liverpool fan? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had. Did you have a good year last year?
Yeah, we won 2 trophies.
Yeah, so
So
brilliant.
I went to watch Liverpool Arsenal and then the final against Chelsea in the
Oh wow.
Carabao Cup.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it was not a bad couple of trips to London, put it that way.
yeah, yeah. I bet. Sadly, not so good this year.
No, yeah, we won't talk about that.
No, no.
No, you're a United fan, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
United. So it's still like,
it's not too bad of a year. You could get the exact same as what we got last year at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah.
Carabao Cup and FA Cup.
To be fair, I'm not the biggest like follower of football. I just kind of know enough so I can take part in sort of like the office football chat.
That's fair enough. Well, you didn't do too good last night. You got beat by Brighton.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
Not great.
not at all. Thank you very much for watching part 1 of the podcast. If you'd like to watch part 2, click here. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoyed it, drop it a like below. Thanks.